Today, we're making a fucking cake. A beef cake. Gadoosh! Today, I'm going to be covering a foundational set of exercises that I like to do. They're always part of my regular routine. Today, I'm going to be covering the core four. Those are going to be squats, bench, deadlift, and bent over row. Some people are going to argue overhead press. I don't have enough room because I'm in the basement and I have a low ceiling. So bent over row it is. So I'm going to show you setup, how to do them. Anybody in the comments, feel free to correct my form whatsoever because I'm not perfect either. But these are going to be specific to what I do for mountain biking and strength training around endurance exercise. This is not going to be for bodybuilding because, well, I got some huge guns. We're not going to go on stage in our thongs. That's for Saturday night at the strip club. For all these sets and all these reps, choose the weight, choose the actual reps that make sense for you. If you're just starting off, maybe do like 2 to 3 by 12 at a lower weight and focus on form to start off with. Because as you increase in weight and decrease in reps, form's going to become even more important so that we don't get injured. So let's focus up, figure out where your weight's going to be at, and we're going to start with first exercise we're going to do is the bent over row. Feet shoulder width apart, bending over, pulling all the way up to your chest, back squeezed, and that's the bent over row. Next up we have the squat. A personal favorite of mine because I love walking around in the beach on a Speedo and showing off these toned buns and pasty legs from the cycling tan line. But with squats, some of you may want to either wedge your heels or get lifting specific shoes. So most people are going to try to start with a high squat, high on their neck. Right away out of the gate, try to do a lower squat. So right in line with like where your shoulder joint is, the head of your femur up here. It's a good starting point. Kind of keep those level, get it low, because that's going to also help you get lower in your squats. Have your feet about shoulder width apart. I personally, when I squat, have my toes angled out. This is all objective. However you like to squat, nobody's going to shit on you for it. Unless you've had too much fiber and then you're lifting a lot of weight, you may move. But I like to point my toes out a little bit. That's how my femurs feel better. So here we go. Get nice and low, parallel as possible. Then re-rack the weight. And that's the squat, complete with a little bit of ASMR, heavy male breathing. Alright, next up is probably one of my least favorite exercises because I have some mobility issues because of a titanium collarbone, but bench press. Straight up, easy, straightforward, but bench press for me, I do struggle with because I have a couple of degrees of range of motion that are lost on this shoulder. So everybody in the comments, when you're like, oh, all the way down to your chest, eat my cinnamon ring. So here we go, bench press. Pretty easy, pretty basic, straightforward. Using the lines on the bar, depending on what you're using, to be able to get lined up and then press. Again, lots of male heavy breathing. So, bench press, straightforward, easy, simple enough. Great for your chest and arms, stabilizing muscles, all of that for foundational lifting. Alright, final lift that I like to do for the core four as far as just base functional training before adding assistance exercises or anything else is the deadlift. I absolutely love the deadlift. I used to be a runner, so I never did these until I became a cyclist, but definitely helps with building power in cycling, all of that. Builds some awesome glutes, total body. You are going to be working tons of muscles here, but absolutely love it. So with form on the deadlift, you're going to use a narrow stance, and then for me, I like to grab at the end, so using the end of the actual texture portion of my bar as far as a grip point. Then from there, a lot of people like to use the flashlight butthole method. I won't judge any of your butt plugs or any methods that you have. One that I like to do that kind of, in my mind, is preloading a spring is getting low, so gripping the bar, but getting low, and when you drop your butt, lifting up and prepping for that actual lift. I find going this method here really helps me prime for the lift, especially as we go heavier. With the deadlift, personal philosophy, you may have your own or develop your own. I do not recommend starting with a hex bar. Hex bars have a higher grip, so you're not going to be having a full range of motion. So you'll be starting with less actual activation of the muscles. But then on top of that, with it, when you do try to go heavier and go with the traditional deadlift, because you're not used to that form, you may cause some injury issues. So that's where I recommend for sure starting off with the traditional deadlift, then as you need, go to that hex bar. So here we go. Getting the stance right, priming. When you come to the top, try to squeeze your shoulders back, don't hyperextend. If you're able to, set the bar down gently. And then from there, get some rest, recovery, reset. But those are my core four.